Here is my Santa stitched up on the Moda Crackle using the Valdani red and just a little smidge of green. I thought that was kind of fun just to add just a touch of a different color, but you don't have to. You could just go ahead and do the whole thing red if you want. I did want to point out in this one, I used 3 tiny little stitches for the eyeballs, which worked pretty well, but it is a little bit dark. So when I stitched it again, I tried it with just 1 stitch. And the second time, I stitched it on this linen, which is so pretty, and I decided to color it in again with the colored pencils. And now you can see the eyeballs. I think just the 1 line is plenty because the thread is so thick, it kind of made it look a little too like he had a black eye or something. So this one was really fun to do, and I just wanted to show, like, on most of the coloring I used a pretty even tone, but I just did just a tiny little touch of blush on his cheeks. And this is done with all black thread, with the exception of the holly and the berry, which I used the green and the red, just for a little something different. So this design doesn't have a whole lot of different stitches in it this time. So the main one is the stem stitch, which is what everything is outlined with. And I kind of wanted this to look like an old coloring book. You know how the pages are just have a black outline and then you color them in, and that's kind of what it reminds me of, this look when you color on this linen, like old crayon. So for a stem stitch, we'll start at one end somewhere. On this one, I'll be doing his arm. And since the arm is arched that way, I'm going to carry my thread on the outside. So I'm going to start by taking a small stitch, about 1/8, and I'm going to come back halfway in between, about 1/16. Carry the thread on the outside, and I'm going to go 1/8, and then I'm going to come up in the same hole as the last stitch, like that. And we're just going to continue that on. Hopefully my light is okay so you can see that. And 1/8 of an inch is a pretty good stitch length for this linen. You can use smaller if you want. If I'm going around a curve, I definitely want to use the nice short stitches. I think those kind of hold up better, the shape. If you go too big, then it kind of lays on top and falls in, or it does a little loopy thing if you don't pull it tight enough. I tend to pull my thread pretty tight, and then when I let go, it loosens up a little bit. You don't want to do it so much that it's all gathered, but so there's a nice stem stitch, just like that. Another little stitch that I like to use when I'm doing something really tiny like this is, I like to use the fly stitch. So that's what I'm going to use on his mitten here. So if I start at the end of his shirt sleeve, and I'm going to carry the thread out just the same shape as his thumb, come back where the thumb and the rest of the mitten meet, and then pull the needle up at the tip of his thumb, carry the thread under the needle, pull it away from you, and now we have a little thumb. You just tack it on the other side of the thread to hold it in place. And I could do the same thing with the rest of the glove because it is so small. Let's try it anyway. I can always take it out. Nope, I think that looks good. And how easy is that to make a little mitten there? Another stitch on this pattern is a running stitch. So that's these dashed lines. So whenever you see a dashed line, it's just a very simple running stitch. I'll show you that over here on this one. So we'll start at one end or the other, and it's just a matter of going down and up and down and up. And you can usually get a few stitches on a needle at a time. And there's a nice running stitch. The last couple stitches that we have here, I actually already did them. I should have waited, darn it. I just get so excited when I start stitching, I forget to wait so that I can show you, but I will show you over here. So one of them is the eyes on these little snowmen. And because they're so tiny, we only want to do one wrap. These are done with a French knot, and we're only going to do one wrap. So you're going to bring your needle up where the eyeball is. You wrap it around one time. Put the needle down. See, I'm kind of holding it with my finger here so it doesn't come undone. Put the needle down really close to where it came up, just maybe one thread away. Pull that wrap down to the fabric and hold on to it like that. You don't want to pull it too tight because you have to pull your needle through. And now you have a nice little eyeball, just like that. So the other stitch that I'll show you is the satin stitch, and that's used just in a few places. We have the bells and the little holly and his hat, and then this snowman's buttons here. I think the buttons might be a little bigger on this one. Oh, they're still really tiny. Little buttons. So the trick with a satin stitch is you just need to keep your stitches really close together. So you're going to bring your needle up right next to where you came up initially, and you're going to start to form the shape of your finished design. So if the thread ended there, I'm going to maybe go down one more thread length and make this one just a little bit longer. And because these are so tiny, you're only going to need maybe 4 or 5 stitches to make a little circle. Maybe one more. And feel free to, like if you're filling it in with a black thread, to go ahead and fill that in with maybe a black Sharpie before you start stitching. This is not a very good circle, but it would have helped if I had drawn a circle first. I should have done that. So that's the little Santa and his little snowman friends. And as you can see, in this one, it's facing one direction. And in this one, it's facing the other direction. And it works both ways. So even though you get the pattern in both directions, so you can decide, that is something to think about. It really, if there's no wording or anything directional like a flag, it really doesn't matter which direction your pattern goes. And if you need any help with coloring, I do have that on some of my previous YouTube videos on just how to do it. I guess I will mention it's easier to do if you have a piece of freezer paper ironed on the back, because it will stabilize the fabric, so it makes tracing much easier. And then you do want to fix it with a fixative so that it doesn't rub off as you're stitching. And once it's fixed, it can be washed and it's not going anywhere. And this is these I colored in with the Prismacolor colored pencils, just regular color pencils. And I'll leave that info at the end of the video where you can get that information. So if you do want to watch the video on coloring and how to fix it, I'll shoot you in that direction. Thank you. I hope you guys are having fun. I hope you're staying safe, and I look forward to a day when we can maybe all get together somewhere and stitch together. I think that would be really fun. So anyway, take care. Thank you so much for being a part of the group. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your posts. I love seeing the finished stitcheries that you guys do. So thank you so much.